Class is in session.
How you doing? And welcome to Unlearn 16. Class is in session, guys. Today I'm going to do a podcast at the exact same time. Wait for it. I do a live. And as I do this live and as I do this podcast, I'm going to get even more tricky. And I am going to speak about the upcoming book chapter that I'm responsible for. So, hunker down. I want to know all your opinions, and I'm going to sort of interact on TikTok Live as I'm doing this podcast so you guys can see, well, the magic of a podcast in a different room, not sitting in my bed. And then I'm going to go over a lot of my book stuff with you and get your opinion on the book. So if you're just listening to it and you're not actually a part of the podcast, you're not actually on TikTok Live, like some of you are on TikTok Live right now, in the comments, I want you to give me all of your suggestions, okay? Because I'm finalizing the draft of how I'm going to make this chapter, and I want everybody to give me their opinion. All right, podcast people, are we ready? You got your head in the game? TikTok people, are we ready? We got your head in the game. All right, here we go. A lot of people are asking me actually, as we're just getting going, about Jan Arden. I just did a TikTok about Jan cutting open her head and going to emerge, and she was actually handed a basin of water to clean it herself. She got staples and then was handed scissors to take it out herself. We've gone to a very bad place in our healthcare industry, but that's not what this podcast is about. So for those who are joining us, this podcast is also a TikTok Live, and we are going to start talking about the book that I'm doing. Now, it's not just, I'm not doing a book on my own, okay? I'm not doing a book on my own. I am doing one chapter of this complete book that's going to talk about the power of social media. So I want to go through with you guys. A lot of you guys have been with me since day one, right? You guys have been with me since day one, and you guys have seen like sort of where I started and then what I did and where I am now and all of those intermediary things. Intermediary, that's a word. All of those. Wait, stand by. For those who are looking at the camera, I forgot to turn on a light. Oh, so much better. All right. Here's what I want. Or here's where I started, okay? I'm not going to tell you my very first part because I have this little introduction part that's like 4 sentences. And then at the end of those 4 sentences, I say the past is prologue. Yes, I know. It's very Star Wars. But nonetheless, I jump into it. And what I've done with this part of the book, or this chapter of the book, I've divided my chapter up into sections, different sections that apply to different points of social media for me. So the first section is loosely titled, I'm up for anybody's criticisms or comments, is New Kids on the Block to Sweat. Now, most people have no idea what that is. They're like, Joanna, what the heck are you talking about? A lot of people who have been watching me recently have no idea that when I started on this app, all I did was lip sync. But guys, listen, I didn't just lip sync on TikTok. I went all in. You know what I'm saying? I bought outfits. I found locations. I had a film crew. I bought guitars to lip sync in the middle of the street to Jesse's Girl, downtown Oshawa. That's what I did. And if you're like, oh my God, I'm so afraid, I'm so sorry I missed it, don't worry. I didn't delete the embarrassment. Not at all. Because you know what? I don't find it embarrassing. You know what? That lip syncing and all of that ridiculous acting and all of the overtop stuff, they're all at the very beginning of my TikTok, all of that ridiculous stuff was so incredibly freeing, I can't describe it to you. Now you got to know, right before all of that, I just went through a horrific divorce. That was the prologue. The past was prologue, right? And this is the first time when I got on this app and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to all of a sudden act. I'm going to all of a sudden, obviously I can't sing. Nobody wants to hear me sing, right? I'm going to all of a sudden act. And it was freeing. It was creative. You guys as a community were beautiful to me. Absolutely beautiful. You bigged me up so much, so much that I just kept upping the game, right? Friggin' buy a guitar, amazing, downtown, walking into the water. Like I just went crazy. Now, when I was lip syncing and when I was doing all of this stuff, you also have to know that it was a lot of my friends were looking at me like, what the heck? What the heck? That is an Ewok, yeah. What the heck is Joanna doing on this app? Because it very much felt like a lot of my friends were like, they'd never seen this side of me before. And to be honest, here's the funny part. I never saw this side of me before. And I'm going to tell you why. You can speak the bridge? I'm going to tell you why. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an actress. And in grade 9, I stepped into what everybody steps into in grade 9, which is the grade 9 drama classroom. Okay. And as I stepped in there, I tell the story about it in my chapter. They wanted me to act right away like a tree. And guys, I walked in there and all of my grade 9 insecurity just erupted. And I turned around, walked out, dropped the class. That changed, I think, who I was going to be for quite some time. Do you understand? I think had I had the wherewithal, the confidence, the whatever, had I had that, maybe, possibly, I would have gone down a different path. Now, I'm very happy I was a teacher. I think I am a teacher. So I think this was the exact road that I needed to take. But there was a part of me there was definitely a part of me that wanted to come back to that. And I let it go. And I let it go. And then I got married and I really let it go. Right? I was very comfortable being a teacher. I was very comfortable, but I really allowed my partner to have center stage because she needed it. She wanted it, all of those things. And I just gave it to her, gave it to her, gave it to her. And so when that crashed, who I was crashed. I don't know if I can explain it to you in enough way. Who I was just evaporated. And I have never felt so lost and so much like a failure and then you started getting some I guess when I was looking back at it, I was like, I felt badly about choices I made and about things that I did and about people I'd cut out because, I was told to do so. And when I started feeling this much better, my friend's kid handed the phone and said, Joe, you're going to do TikTok. Charlie, Joe, you're going to do TikTok. I said, what the hell am I going to do on TikTok? He handed me the phone and then I started doing this, right? I started doing lip sync. I didn't even know that TikTok was a place that I could have an authentic voice. I didn't know TikTok was a place where I could talk about politics or teaching. I didn't know any of those things, right? Nothing. I was married for almost 12 years. And so when I started doing it, all it did for me at that moment, you got to know, I was devastated by the divorce, like just decimated. And people liked me. People bigged me up. People virtually clapped for me. And in that moment, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I needed that. I had beautiful friends and family, but it was like these total strangers from all across the world loved pieces of me, right? And was I acting? Sure. Can I sing? Absolutely not. Right? But It's what I needed in that moment that I had it. I think it's, look, I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And then what I did, one day I literally gave my opinion about Doug Ford. And then I got all of this other sort of influence from TikTok and social media, which was, oh my God, having a political voice is important. A lot of people agree with me. A lot of people didn't agree with me. It started this huge dialogue. It reinvigorated what I love to speak about, which is politics. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this app and I'm like, oh my God, do people want me to speak about politics on TikTok? And I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. I had no idea that that my interests, that what authentically moves me, that drives me could actually touch and connect and start a dialogue with all of you. I had no idea. Right? And the deeper I got into it and the more opinions I started to have, and this was early on, this was in like the first year to 2 years of TikTok, right? As I started to realize, and guys, I don't know how else I can frame this, but how important I might be. Isn't that now I know a lot of you are like, Joanna, TikTok doesn't make you important. It's not about TikTok. And it's not about how many people follow me. It's about the interaction that I had. It's about the community that we built. It's about the conversations that we had. And I want to thank you guys because what you made me do in those early days, and this is the round full circle. When Ryan, one of my best friends that I've worked with for 21 years, who's an amazing director and theater production drama teacher, when he came to me and said, Joanna, I want you to be in the play for the 21st time. He asked me every single year. For the 21st time, he's asked me, can you be in the play? And I need you in the play because COVID happened and people are dropping out and we won't do it if you don't do it. It's one of the major roles. You have to do it. And I looked him dead in his face and I said, give me the script. And guys, I need you to understand. I said, give me the script with sweat running down my back because of the confidence, because of the energy, because of the power that you guys gave me. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I still get it. I'm not saying it was easy, and I'm not saying I'm hopping back on that stage, but I'm telling you, you guys gave me so much confidence in order to, wait for it, be more scared to not try than scared to fail. Does that make sense? I was more afraid to give up the possibility than I was afraid to look like a moron and fail at it. That's the most important thing in life. And I didn't learn that. I just came to it because of, yes, divorce, because of, yes, stuff I was going on with my family, because of, yes, all these different things. But you guys and social media and the connections, the authentic connections that I've been able to make was by far one of the most life-altering things, period. So while you guys are all listening to this podcast or you're watching it right now on a TikTok live, I need you to understand how important this space is and how important you guys are to me and your energy and your vibes, your support and your criticism, your good comments and your negative, right? Because that all leads to my second part of the book. Are you ready? My second part of my chapter. My podcast, Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. All right. Second part of my chapter is called, does anybody want to take a guess? Soft Pieces of Celery. That's the second part of my chapter. And in this chapter, I describe pretty much how trolls and people who don't like my hat or my haircut or my baggy jeans and all of this, are you a boy? Are you a boy? Are you all of this kind of garbage, right? All of that stuff set me up. Whoa! Sorry, guys, listening to the podcast. I just got jets on here. For those listening to the podcast, you don't know what that is, but just so you understand, that was a pretty incredible thing. Thank you so much. So, this part about getting those kind of attacks, okay? Now, mostly, let's be honest, the attacks are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. Nobody can spell anything. Nobody knows how to use grammar check. Nobody knows any sort of context or sentence structure. All right? However, what it did for me was this. It gave me power to do two things. Number one, when you get a comment like that, you don't need to respond right away on social media. Take a pause. You take a pause and you make sure you don't respond from an emotional center. You respond from an intellectual one, right? And as you respond from an intellectual one, you try to get at what the root is. And sure, I'll fix their spelling, I'll fix their grammar, I'll give them a little pat on the head and a kick out the door, but I'll do it with sarcasm, and I will always use it to teach, not the person that left the comment. I need you guys to understand that, because a lot of people say, why on earth would you respond to all of the haters? Why would you? Don't give them energy, don't give them time, don't give them your focus. Here's why I do it. I don't give them anything. I'm not looking to change the person who's like, are you a girl or a boy? Why are lesbians, blah, blah, blah. I'm not looking to change those people. Those people, to me, some of them might be able to be changed, but that's not who I'm talking to. When I do a clapback video, when I do a video putting people in their place, I'm not doing it to tell them, to teach them. I'm not doing it for them at all. I'm doing it for the 21-year-old kid who's living in a bigoted town, who have to face hate and uneducated stupidity on a daily basis. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for them who, at any given moment, want to call it a day. At any given moment, don't have the energy anymore to talk back to the morons in the grocery line or at their job or wherever they happen to be. That's who I'm doing it for. So I'm doing it for the people that feel a little lost, that feel a little attacked, that aren't sitting. I mean, when somebody says it to me on this app, who cares? Nobody cares. But for them, watching me sort of tear the argument down, watching me stand in a level of pride and a level of empowerment, that's what I want those people to feel. They can play back my video. They can play it to the other person. They can have an internal laugh at the mediocrity and embarrassment that those leading with bigotry and hate are, and they can be on their way. Because I think that that's incredibly important, right? So I have to do that, right? I absolutely have to do those things. I have to respond. In the book, by the way, I give you a point-by-point way in order to combat and respond to all of these, let's be honest, uneducated, soft pieces of celery, if you will, right? I never swear. I never rarely get angry. I don't get aggressive. I don't attack. I put them where they belong to be, which is nowhere important, but as an example to those who need to feel uplifted. I don't know the book title yet. I am writing one chapter in the book. I am just describing how I'm going to go through it. Okay, so that was the second part. The third part is called Nurses, EAs, and Book Bans. Oh my. So the reason why I called it this is at some point, right, I got very political. I started obviously talking about not just Doug Ford, but talking about the whole sort of auspice of, you know, the whole auspice of politics and impact and the key issues that were going on, let's be honest, over the last little while. I've talked about book bans. I've talked about insurrections. We've talked about women's rights being eradicated. So many different things. Healthcare in provinces, education in provinces, so many different things. And all of these different things sort of had a way of me being able to address serious issues. Now, does everybody agree with me on these issues? Absolutely not. Are there a bunch of people in this chat right now who are like, I don't agree with her every time she talks about politics? Absolutely. But here's what I got out of it. Because I really, really believe that there's very few answers that have a black and white response. There's everything that's big, that's important, the only way you can discuss it is with nuance. The only way you can discuss it is with a back and forth. The only way that anything matters is the conversation. So I started this and I realized I love talking about politics. I love the back and forth. I love getting on and talking about it during lives and people ask questions and I give my opinions and sometimes they hate it and sometimes they agree with it. What I did after this, I started a podcast. I started this podcast. Why? Well, because I wanted to create a space where there could be a back and forth. I wanted to create a space of nuance. I wanted to create a space where somebody who thinks opposite to me, as long as they are intelligent and respectful, can sit with me in a room and talk politics and talk social justice and talk about the important issues that face our world, and we have those big conversations. So I've sat on my podcast with guys like Viva Frey from Twitter. He has his own podcast. If you guys have ever heard him, you know I probably disagree with 95% of what he says. But we had the discussion. Tony Clement, a very, very famous conservative politician, I had him on here to discuss politics. And again, he and I sit very sort of polar opposite on many, many issues. That has to be the situation and has to be how you're having a conversation. There is no better conversation surrounding you with somebody who doesn't think the same way you do, but does it with intelligence and respect. That's the only way to get closer to the truth. Because I can sit here right now and I will admit I have bias. Of course I do. Everybody does. I can sit here and admit that I speak from a certain sort of demographic. I speak from a certain educational platform. I speak from a certain sort of historical and social platform. So what do I want to do? I want to sit with people who don't think like that. And so I invite them on. Now, it's not to say that I haven't sat on people who very much agree with who I am and very much agree with some of the ideas I have. But it's so much more important that I sit down with people who don't. Right? And even the people that are disrespectful, for the most part, I'll sit down, depending on how, if you're going to be so ridiculous and you can't even have a conversation, that's useless. Right? And the more I speak to people, you can't help but gain intelligence and gain awareness by speaking to people who don't think the way you do. Some people are asking how old I am. I am 48. I've been a teacher for 21 years. So the podcast and creation of the podcast would never have happened if not for social media, if not for TikTok, if not for me wanting a little bit more and a little bit more of an engagement and a little bit more of that nuance and a little bit more of perspective. Oh yeah, absolutely. Good Trouble. Good Trouble is a great person on TikTok. We have yet to cross paths. I don't know how much we would agree. I feel like we would agree on more than we would disagree on, but very intelligent. Very intelligent. TikTok has absolutely made me a better teacher because it's brought more unique perspectives into my life, right? It's TikTok has managed, because it's what I've wanted out of it too. TikTok has managed to connect me with more perspectives, more real lived experience, more viewpoints than I have ever come in contact with before. That's where the power lies. That's where the potential for good lies, right? You have to be able to do all of those things. You know, I get called lots of things on this on this app. But I also, one of the things that I also say in this chapter is, little Canadian shout out here. Any Marshall McLuhan fans in the audience? Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message. Well, when you are the medium, right? In a very real way, and the medium is your ability to authentically distribute your idea, you are the message. So be very careful with how you wield that, but also be okay with not being right all the time, because you never will be, and understanding that you're going to have to alter and change and learn and grow and do better. All of those things matter, right? Third part of my book, are you ready? I tap into teaching. And when I started really sharing teaching and how I taught and what my classroom stuff was and what I got from that and how I connected with you guys about that as well, right? So I think I filmed a quiz with my students at some point because they're funny. 7 and 8s are funny. For those of you who don't know, I teach grade 7 through grade 12. No, I don't teach grade 9 because they're terrifying. But I taped them and well, the camera's on me, but their responses, and it was funny and everybody loved it. And what I started realizing is that people want to see education, A, what teachers do, but B, they want to see education and educators be more engaging. They want to know what you do in your class. What do you do differently? What are your perspectives? Again, even if they don't agree, right? Even if they don't think my methodology is strong. They don't think my viewpoints are useful. This is the place where you can give all of that. So what did I do? I always started sharing what I thought was important to education, what I did in my classroom, what I didn't do, how many, and people really like this, how many mistakes I made along the way. People love it when I tell them my baby teaching stories when I was a young teacher. Why? Because it was a disaster. Because you don't know how you know to teach history, you know to teach whatever subject matter you have. But guys, that's not the most important part of teaching. The most important part of teaching is understanding the students, is understanding how you need to pivot, is understanding what they need in any given day, is understanding how those kids fit with each other and form different student bodies depending on the class they're in, and how you have to adjust in order to reach them, help them, educate them, empower them. And so there are moments where I think I'm great with students, and then there's moments where I think, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. I should have. You know, when I was a younger teacher, there was a lot of yelling. As a teacher, when you have to yell, you've lost because you didn't see and you didn't manage appropriately on the front end, right? I think that the whole point of teaching, people ask, what's my favorite part of teaching? And it's the learning. It's the learning. It's not the learning about history. Although some kids teach me about history, some kids teach me about politics, things I never knew. It's the learning about them. It's the learning about how to be a better teacher. It's the learning about developmental psychology. It's the learning about new things that inform their state of being. It's the learning about every single thing that those kids have to interact with and what they bring to the class. It's learning about mental health issues. It's learning about autism. It's learning about dyslexia. It goes and goes and goes. Right? One of my favorite quotes from Socrates has to be, the more that I learn, the more that I know nothing at all. The more that I know nothing at all. It's also learning how to help them, how to watch them fail, let them fail, and help them get back up. And as a teacher, sometimes we forget how scary that grade 9 drama classroom is. And when I joined the play and I did the play, it all came rushing back, right? It all came rushing back. How terrifying failure and embarrassment and all of those things were that I had put out of my head because I controlled everything in my life. Right? So I joined that play to be a student again. The more you can put yourself in your student's shoes, the more you'll be able to understand them. So when I was in that play, want to know who helped me? My students, who were acting beside me, who were way better at it than me, who encouraged me, who pushed me, who supported me, who taught me. The best experience I've had in a very long time was doing something so incredibly scary with my students so they could see I can do scary things too. And I was very, very, I shared it. I shared it. I told them all I was always terrified. I felt sick the entire time. All of those kids knew it. They knew every single day I did more of that play, I was more scared. Now that's important. Because normally kids don't see us scared. We don't want them to see us scared, right? And it was important for them to watch me try something and kind of suck at it for a bit. That's okay too. Because the biggest thing you have to do for students, with students, is watch them fail because you can't control it, help them get back up, applaud their failure because you know they're going to learn something big if they'll get back up and try again. That's it. Right? I think that's an incredibly important aspect. And I think when I share stories with that on social media, not only do parents like it because they can see what else they can do, and teachers like it because they can see strategies, younger students like it who listen to me because they see themselves in different things and they can give me advice on different items. And they can also see that I didn't always have it perfect. I still don't have it perfect. Understand that. I still don't have it even close to being perfect. So when I make a mistake, it is the first thing I admit and the first thing I talk about it. And people around the world need to listen to those. They want to listen to those stories because it makes them feel like, oh, damn, okay. Well, I made a mistake yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm down. That doesn't mean I'm out. That just means now tomorrow I'm going to be better. Right? Now I have two more parts to the chapter, and I want to get your vibes on them. And I kind of want you guys to guess one of the chapters, what one of the chapters is, or not one of the chapters, one of the sections is going to be called. But of course, I won't write anything uh, without talking about Grandma Ruby. Thank you, Styles. Get my purse. Get my purse is another section. Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about Grandma Ruby, not just because how she created me, not just because of the person she was, but I need everybody to understand that the power of social media not only allowed you guys to get to know me and my grandma, but you made a 97-year-old feel famous and important. You did that. I took my grandma to the mall and people knew who she was and people asked for photos with her. And you guys made her feel important and special. You guys sent gifts to her. Thank you. You guys you guys and she might have kept forgetting, but I reminded her. You guys made her feel important. And for 97-year-olds, I don't think they feel important a lot. Right? I don't think they feel important a lot. And I know I shared her with you and I know you got to know her and she had all these cool parts of her, but you made her feel super important. And then you also made my mom and my uncle so thankful because they know that forever their mom is going to, they know, like, the world got to get to know her and how much we love her and how important she is to all of us. And that's powerful. And then in that same sense, I shared with you guys my mom battling cancer. How hard it was, how scary it was. I shared with you my uncle, Ray, who would calm down and take care of everything and take care of us and who would do anything for us. I literally use this app and this medium in order to just share as much as I could about my life and about connection and about family and about the hard things and about the fun things. And as I did, it was therapy. It was therapy for me. And for some of you, you said it was therapy for you because you felt like there was a connection and I understood. And everybody could kind of have a moment where they pull parts of their lives and can see themselves reflected in that. If we have the comfortable, like if you can be comfortable sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, it is amazing to me how that authenticity can connect with so many different people. That's what's fascinating, right? It was amazing to me how it would make people, how my grandma would make people feel better about the loss they've endured because they have this new connection. When I would talk about getting angry about my mom having cancer, or getting angry about my grandma getting sick, or getting angry about, how unjust I felt that it was, you guys were there to sometimes commiserate, to sometimes shed some light, to sometimes make me feel better, to sometimes, sort of just let me feel that. It's all of what we're talking about is absolutely there. But when people talk about social media, this is the positive. This is the positive of connection. This is the positive of being authentic. This is the positive of showing more people your heart. That's it. So that's going to be a really important part of my chapter. I'll try not to cry during it. But you won't know anyway, because I'll be typing little watermarks on the table, right? But it will be incredibly focused on how I have tried to share my family. Well, because, that's who I am. And so when they talk about social media being this, oh, it's such a horrible place, you really have to tap into how beautiful it is. And this chapter, guys, this chapter of the book, if it goes well, if it's well received, I'm going to send it out. I might give it a go. I might give the whole book a go. We'll see. Thank you, Yeet. I might give the whole book a go. And then my last chapter, I don't know what order I'm going to, not my last chapter, my last section is going to talk about sort of my almost famous section. The idea that the power you have and the authenticity you have enables you to, especially through this medium, to talk to like-minded people and to touch like-minded people. I've met Rosie O'Donnell. I've met Vanessa Marcel. I've met I've spoken to Jan Arden. I've met all of you beautiful people. And what I found is that connecting to people who are quote unquote celebrities, right, in that industry are those three people I just mentioned are three of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And you have perceptions about all of that in your head, right? You have perceptions and separations from all of those things. Yet those individuals get to be a beautiful example of celebrity and heart, celebrity and intelligence, and all of these things. And we're able to connect. If you can connect with the people you think are so out of reach, all of a sudden the world seems like a much smaller place, because you can start to see that if you're authentically you here, you connect with other authentic human beings on this planet, no matter where they live, what they do, who they are, what their age is, what their bank account looks like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And connecting with you guys, connecting with people who watch my podcast, connecting with people on live on TikTok or on Instagram or heaven forbid Twitter. It also shows me, and social media has proven to me, that we have the power to do beautiful and amazing things. And for every person that chirps me and that says something stupid or says something hateful, there's 1,000 of you who are empathetic, intelligent, beautiful, heartfelt, loving people who just want the best for everybody in this world. Period. That's what social media does. This is it. Obviously, the podcast that I'm talking about, I'm doing the podcast right now while I'm talking to you guys right now. I'm trying to merge two forms of media. It is Unlearn 16 classes in session. But if we can laugh together, if we can cry together, if we can do it all authentically, I don't think there's anything on this world that we can't accomplish. I think that people are powerful and beautiful. And I think that social media and what I've been lucky enough to fall into is proof that the more people I come in contact with, the more I am blown away, the more that I realize this planet is filled with love and empathy and beauty, and we should absolutely, absolutely hold on to that with both hands. Keep reaching out, keep doing it more, and keep writing those books. And before I go on my podcast, I'll continue talking on TikTok Live. Before I go on my podcast, I want to ask one question. Who do you think my big thank you is in this chapter? Who do you think, as you're listening to this podcast, if you know me at all, who do you think I had to thank at the very end of this chapter? Because without them, I would never have started. It's funny you say Anna. I love Anna, but Anna didn't make me start. Grandma Ruby didn't make me start this. No, Grandma didn't. That's it. Charlie, shh, don't tell him. Don't tell him, because I want him to be surprised. But to be honest, he signed me up, handed the phone, and said, Joe, get on TikTok. So, the end of my podcast, if you're listening, thank you, Charlie. You're going to be in my chapter. And with that, my podcast people, I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat station. Dismissed.